the event after Meet the Firms Week begins. Quick housekeeping items on National Meet the Firms Week and how that works. National Meet the Firms Week, if you haven't done so, make sure you have a profile built on CollegeFrog. But you can just go to meetthefirmsweek.com. That will register for the event and help you build a profile on CollegeFrog. And that way, employers from around the country can access your profile, and you can search for and apply to jobs. This week is a special event for us, and we appreciate our sponsors like Deloitte and CPA Excel and the Association of Accounting Administration for putting this on. And I want to thank our team at CollegeFrog, including Bryant Chase, who's the director of our program. Many of you have heard from Bryant already through the event. So I think we're good to go now. Let's talk about today. We are lucky to have the team from Deloitte talking about the right fit. And if you've been spending time with CollegeFrog, you know that our mission is to help you understand different career options available to you for an accounting degree. And there's probably none better right now than Deloitte. I'd like to tell you a little about Deloitte. Nearly 57,000 professionals work for Deloitte, and they have a single focus, serving clients, helping their clients solve their toughest problems. Deloitte works in 4 areas: audit, financial advisory, tax, and consultant. And they focus on their clients' needs. And you're going to hear a lot about the background of Deloitte, how it operates, and how to know if you are a good fit for a Big 4 firm and to start your career there. So with that being said, a couple of things after the call. We're going to leave time for Q&A. Please be sure to use your question box, and you can use that question box to ask me a question. I will pass it along to the Deloitte team, and they can definitely answer your questions at the end of the presentation. All right? So, and the last thing is, at the end, I'll show you, if you're at a school where Deloitte does not visit your campus, we can show you how you can apply to Deloitte positions as well. So make sure you stay to the end. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Ellebrock, who's with Deloitte, and he is the talent scout in the Southeast region, and he's going to kick things off. Kevin, thank you so much for you joining, as well as the rest of your team, and the floor is yours.
All right, thanks so much, Jeff. We are excited to be here today. I have a great group of colleagues that have joined us for the call today, and we have a lot of objectives that we'd like to cover. We want to provide you with a high-level overview about Deloitte, but also give you some great insight into what a career in Big 4 accounting looks like. There's so many things that a company like Deloitte does, and I'm sure it's confusing. If you've gone on our website, you've seen, wow, it looks like Deloitte has their hands in a lot of different things, and it's true. So our goal is to educate you a little bit on those different opportunities, but then also share some insight into how do you apply for those opportunities, what do we look for in candidates, and so forth. A little bit about my background. I've been a corporate recruiter for the last 13 years. My master's is in human resource management. I've had the honor of working at Deloitte for the last 9 years in campus recruitment. The first 5 years, I was the state of Florida AERS, which is Audit and Enterprise Risk Services campus recruiter. And the last 3 years, I've worked as the Southeast Talent Scout for Deloitte. And that title sounds very much like what you think it is. I go out to campuses throughout the Southeast and look for talented underclassmen, for the most part, strong freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, and help educate them on Deloitte, build a brand of Deloitte on those respective campuses, and connect those students with opportunities to engage in internships or leadership conferences and so forth. So really excited to share my experiences with Deloitte on this call and to answer questions that you have on the back end. I'm going to turn things over to Casey Griffin, and one of our audit partners, to introduce himself.
Thanks, Kevin. This is Casey Griffin, and I'd just like to join him and thank you guys for joining us today. A little bit about me. I'm an audit partner based in Boston, Massachusetts. I serve clients in the technology, media, and telecom industry sectors, and those clients span from early growth stage, private equity-backed companies, all the way up to large public multinationals that are recognized as living room names. I'm a graduate of Stonehill College, a small Catholic liberal arts school located just south of Boston, with an enrollment of about 2,000. Back when I graduated, Deloitte did not come to my school to recruit, so the times have changed and the advent of technology has enabled that. But after earning my degree in accounting, I spent a few years in industry before ultimately choosing to come to Deloitte among what was the 6 big firms back then. I'm now in my 15th year here at Deloitte, and I continue to be rewarded with great career opportunity and professional development challenges that we'll talk a little bit more about today. So now on to Jen, who will do an introduction of herself as well.
Great. Thanks, Casey. And this is Jen Powell. I am coming to you from the left coast. I'm based out of our San Francisco office. And like hopefully many of you will do, I joined Deloitte straight out of school 13 years ago. I graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and I joined our consulting practice. In those 13 years at Deloitte, I've had a very exciting and very unique career path, which has included a number of different roles and projects, from work in client service in the consulting business to roles within our recruiting organization. And right now I am leading some of our recruiting marketing efforts, and so really glad to have this opportunity to chat with you guys, share my experiences finding my fit at Deloitte, and answering questions. And you'll hear a little bit more from me at the end of the session as we get into the Q&A portion of the call. So without further ado, Kevin, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Jen. So we want to take a moment to just get to know our audience here. We want to learn a little bit more about you and what your current education level is. So you should see an opportunity on your screen. There should be a poll coming up. Hopefully you're able to see that.
Yeah. So Kevin, everybody's plugging in now. We're about 50% of the students who have entered, 60%. And Kevin, while they're entering their answers, are you able to see the responses yourself?
I'm not. I don't see them quite yet.
Okay, cool. I'll be able to tell you we're almost we've almost got. I'll be able to just kind of feed you the answers here, but we've got about 80% of the students who have voted. So I'll give you a rundown real quick, Kevin. 10% of the answers are freshmen and sophomores. 10% are juniors. 19% are seniors. 35% are master's students, and 27% are recent graduates. And what I'll do is go ahead and close that up, and you can go back to the presentation, okay?
Excellent. That's really helpful for us to understand what our audience is, so that we can tailor some of the information you're going to receive towards where a lot of our audience is today. So thanks everyone for participating in that element. We're going to take it a step further and learn a little bit more about what school you're from. This is something we're really interested in, as Jeff pointed out and Casey pointed out. We have an expansive campus recruiting program. We're on a lot of different campuses throughout the country, but we can't go everywhere. And there's a lot of talent at universities that we just don't have the resources to make it out there. So we're really interested in hearing where you're from. And Jeff, as those start to come in, we'd love to hear some of those colleges called out so we can recognize them on the call. All right, Jeff, are you starting to see some of those come in?
I sure am. So let me give you the answers. This is really exciting. University of Texas, University of Florida, New York University, Virginia Commonwealth University, Fordham, Wayne State, University of Maryland, University of Hawaii, which I'm jealous of you, University of Arizona, Rochester Institute, University of Georgia, go Dogs, DePaul, Florida State, UT Dallas, Manchester University in Indiana, Cleveland State, let's see, Yeshiva University, Berkeley, San Jose State, Thunderbird. There is a ton of Penn State, Florida Atlantic. So there's a ton of schools here represented. This is really cool to see everybody listing their schools. There's probably 300. I could list more, but thanks everybody for listing these.
That's great. Sounds like a roll call of our leadership conferences. When we do our Deloitte National Leadership Conference, we have students from all over the country going out to Deloitte University and attending that. And I know, in particular, I recruited at a number of those schools: University of Florida, University of Georgia, Florida State, Maryland. So it's great to hear some of my schools come up on the roll call. So thanks, everyone, for sharing that. A couple of things that we want to cover today. We want to help you with finding your fit. There's a lot of different opportunities within accounting, and whether it's Big Four or other industries and opportunities, we want to make sure we cover that at a high level for you, and then also within the organization. We're going to provide you some insight on starting your career in the Big Four. What does that look like? Students ask all the time, what do you do? What's a typical day in the life of a Big Four professional? And so Casey is going to share some great insight into what it really looks like and feels like to be a Deloitte professional and a Big Four professional. What do we look for in candidates? I attend career fairs consistently. Next week I have 4 career fairs that I'll be going to, and I guarantee you the most common question that I'll receive is, what are you looking for in a candidate? And we're going to provide you with that insight. And I think, particularly for some of you that are freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, I think you're going to find that really impactful, because there's a lot of things that you can do and you control over your academic career to build up your resume and build up your skill set in terms of what we're looking for. And there's a lot of things that you can do for those masters and recent grads to frame your experiences in a way that makes you attractive to employers. So we'll walk through that a little bit. And then we're going to help you prepare for Big Four recruitment. As we mentioned, Deloitte does a lot of different things, and our recruiting process can vary depending on which group, whether it's Deloitte Consulting or Deloitte Audit that you're looking for. But we try to standardize it as much as possible, and we're going to give you a high-level overview about what that process looks like and what you can do to prepare for that process. And then we're going to provide you with an opportunity to ask some questions on the back end. All right, so a little bit about finding your fit. There's so many things that you can do with an accounting degree. I'm sure there's some students on the call that are other business majors, and we do source from areas like finance and management information systems and computer science degrees. There's a lot of things at Deloitte, a lot of majors that we look at. But for accounting students in particular, it is a great time to be in the job market. If you go to any career fair, you will see that companies, not just Big Four firms and regional and local firms, but corporations are looking for students that have this accounting skill set, because in many cases, these students have the ability to understand business as a whole and in the structure of business, but also have social skills that are needed to move up and advance within the organization. So again, there's Big Four firms, and again, many of the names you might have heard: Ernst & Young, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte are those Big Four firms nationally. There are some other consulting firms out there as well that are in this market. Mid-market and local regional firms, you'll see many of those at your career fairs and at different national leadership conferences like Alpha and NAVA, and then industry, so the opportunities at corporate clients. One size does not fit all, so know yourself and know your interests. And one of the great things is going through the recruiting process and seeing these companies come to campus, and the fact that you're on this call today, you can learn a lot about Deloitte and our culture. You can learn about what opportunities exist, what offices are we located in. So you have to make some decisions about, do you want to work for a large global organization, or are you maybe better suited for working in a smaller office and a smaller local CPA practice? And just by getting out there and building relationships and meeting with professionals is going to be a great way for you to learn more about what the fit is. Location. We tell students all the time, I think students come to career fairs and they say, oh, I need to work in New York or Chicago. That's where the business is. That's where the opportunities are. And I say, opportunities are everywhere. Opportunities, particularly at Deloitte, you can become a partner. You can move up, whether you're in Boca Raton or Boise, or in a big office like Dallas or San Francisco. So we ask you to primarily look at where you really want to live. Where do you want to put your roots in when you're looking at locations? Now, there are some of you that are going to have specific reasons for wanting to go to certain markets. Maybe it's certain clients that you're interested in. Certain areas of industry are more abundant in certain areas, but that's things you need to ask questions and learn about. Industry, as you're going through your classes and you start to figure out, where your interests lie. For example, tax. You might take some tax classes and say, well, I think I'm really interested in international tax or multi-state tax. There's so many different areas within tax that we can provide opportunities for you in. So you want to start getting insight into where your passions lie and where your interests lie. And then most importantly, you have to find the right fit with people and culture. For those of you that are going to schools that have a lot of access to Big Four firms and regional and mid-market firms, you're going to get opportunities to learn more about those companies and what are the differences in those organizations. How do they differ with regards to training and development, with regards to their work-life balance, people initiatives. So you need to figure out what are your priorities as an individual, and then as you interview with those companies, try to figure out how those align to find the right fit for you. I talked to Casey a little bit about this before the call, and Casey's got a great background because he's been with Deloitte for a long time and has been able to find his fit within the organization. And he's got some great insights that he's going to share with you and then start to cover a little bit about what a career in the Big Four looks like. So Casey, I'll turn things over to you.
Thanks, Kevin. And I think, a lot of the considerations that you framed up are very much relevant. But much like you had your own evaluative criteria in choosing your university or college, so goes the considerations in investing in your career. And that's exactly what you're doing in making this decision. You're investing in your career. So the more you can think about what your career plan looks like, whether it's industry-focused or sector-disciplined, whether your prospective employer offers the scale of global opportunity to meet your developmental objectives, or whether you're content with the hometown feel of a smaller practice. Those are evaluative considerations that are specific to each individual, and they're ultimately going to lead us to a rewarding career as we define it. For me personally, having attended a small college and excelled with a higher degree of direct personal interaction, for me the single most important factor was people and career. And at Deloitte I found a culture of inclusion. There are no ivory towers here. There's just professionals with varying degrees of experience. These are real people that embraced my commitment to the firm and my commitment to my own personal development, and they've really helped to mentor me through rich and progressive experiences that helped me to realize my potential. So how can you get started? Let me speak a little bit about my experience. As I mentioned, I chose to come to Deloitte from industry. At the time, I was working in financial services, and I had been audited by 4 of the big 6 firms back then, and I found Deloitte offered the best fit for me. Let me share more. Today, Deloitte is the largest professional services firm in the world. Our global footprint is organized around a member firm network that deploys nearly 200,000 professionals in over 150 countries. We provide a broad range of professional services to public and private institutions organized by targeted market sectors such as energy and resources and financial services. Next slide, Kevin. Here in the U.S., we are organized by functional services such as audit or tax. Those are the traditional services lines that folks typically affiliate a public accounting firm with. However, Deloitte is the only major firm that retained its consulting practice through the implementation of Sarbanes-Oxley regulation, and we've since further evolved our service offerings to include what we call financial advisory services. You might ask, what do these entail? Audit and Enterprise Risk Services, or AERS as we refer to it. This includes the traditional financial statement audit, but it also includes a suite of advisory services. For example, M&A transaction due diligence, enterprise risk assessment, internal audit outsourcing. Within the tax service line, there's the traditional tax return compliance work, but there are also other services that are advisory in nature, such as international tax planning, performing transfer pricing studies to support the arm's length nature of economics attached to a cross-border intercompany transaction. And then within our consulting practice, we generally evolve our service offering around 3 key areas: human capital, strategy, and technology needs of both large Fortune 500 and governmental enterprises. Financial advisory services, which we refer to as FAS, has perhaps the broadest suite of market offering. This is where you'll find chartered financial analysts, or CFAs, performing valuations, and certified fraud examiners, or CFEs, providing forensic examinations for clients that may have been subject to a fraud, perhaps. There are a number of other offerings within this niche area of the practice, and the takeaway is that, geez, if there's a market for professional services, there's a good chance that Deloitte is providing a solution. So what do these things mean to us? Well, personally, I leverage these services quite often in the delivery of a quality audit to all of my clients so that I can ensure that I'm bringing the value of the right discipline and skill set. What does it mean to you? Well, the key word here, as you'll see on the next slide, is opportunity. We cannot be successful in serving the needs of our clients without committed people. That's just the reality of it. While we've grown our practice into the largest professional services firm in the world, we have a continuous need for highly motivated and talented people that are seeking the opportunity to leverage these experiences into career opportunities. As I tell many young professionals that I mentor, they're embarking on a perpetual MBA program when they begin a career in the Big Four. So you may ask, what does that look like for me? Next slide, Kevin. Well, the traditional Big Four experience may involve a number of the things here on this slide. Of course, it all begins with client service. If the work doesn't get done, we don't get paid, and nobody takes home a paycheck. But client service is more. It's rewarding to our individual careers. Our professionals generally get exposed to a broad variety of projects and industries that allow them to open up the aperture and explore their career interests. With the passage of time, they gain more experience and focus on specialization. Of course, professional excellence is defined by a commitment to one's ongoing development through learning, on-the-job training, progressive responsibilities, and of course, mentoring. And among our core values, we believe that giving back is the right thing to do. So each spring, Deloitte organizes a firm-wide volunteerism day known as Impact Day. This enables our people to give back to the community through projects and initiatives while also offering an opportunity to foster longer-term, higher-impact volunteer relationships that they can support throughout the year. And finally, we strongly encourage networking. If you start now, by the time you're in your 15th year of your career, you'll have a vibrant network of colleagues, clients, and specialists that will empower your career success. So you might ask, what does a typical day in the life of a Big Four professional look like? Well, on the next slide, we've got a great picture of a puzzle, and it can be a puzzle at times. From my own personal experience, I'm coming from a team meeting this morning where we're planning for the audit of a March 31st year-end client. Later today, I'm going to be researching a technical issue that another client is facing in preparation for a meeting that we'll have at their offices tomorrow. Come Thursday, I'll be attending a firm-sponsored training all day. The dynamics of each day vary, and frankly, this keeps our job interesting and helps to foster our ongoing development. In the next slide, we introduce this concept known as the 3 E's. Your development comes from these 3 E's, both your education, your experiences, and your exposure. The fact is, each of our functional service lines has developed a core curriculum of both technical and soft skill training that's geared to help its professionals be successful on their assignments while also developing them into tomorrow's leaders. We also encourage our professionals to explore special assignments through what we refer to as management and global development programs. These involve temporary deployment of the professional to either national functional leadership or in member firm countries around the world. Finally, we embrace a culture of apprenticeship. We recognize that our obligations as stewards of a great firm, that someday we must entrust our lives' work in your hands. So we have a very much vested interest in your development too. The images that you're looking at on screen, these are of Deloitte University. A few years back, we undertook an effort to construct a physical university located just outside of Dallas, Texas. We refer to it as DU. I think DU is best described as Harvard meeting Ritz, where the object of your visit is really to unlock your leadership potential. We've created a learning atmosphere that's equipped with state-of-the-art technology and dedicated staff. It makes for a truly unique and rewarding learning experience. So with that said, I'm going to kick it back over to Kevin. He's going to talk a little bit about the hiring profile that we look for.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Casey. And to Casey's point, I was just out at Deloitte University for a leadership conference that we did at the end of July, and I can tell you it's just an amazing experience, and we're really fortunate to have a facility that is so dedicated to investing in our people and also opportunities to network with professionals. But moving forward on to what are we looking for in a candidate? I know a lot of you have been waiting anxiously for this part of the call, so I'm excited to share some insight with you. As we meet candidates at the career fairs or at the national conferences or even online, for those of you that apply at Deloitte.com for different opportunities, one of the first things we look for is the major relevant, particularly for a college student, for what we're looking for. So in many cases, depending on the opportunity you're pursuing, looking for accounting, technology, or finance degrees. For those of you looking for audit or tax careers, we are looking for students that are eligible for the CPA exam. Deloitte provides some great bonus incentives for completing the exam either prior to starting or within your first year. But we need students that are either getting their master's in accounting, master's in taxation, or completing their 150 hours that will make them eligible to the CPA. So we're looking for those as critical elements of what we look for, and then we start to look at what is this person's skill set? What is their involvement in leadership skills? Leadership is something that's really important that we try to assess when we're evaluating candidates on campus. It's not enough to just have a strong GPA, just have a 4.0 GPA, and think you are going to navigate your way through the recruiting process without some of these other elements. We're looking for students that have been leaders, have been engaged in clubs and organizations, and they don't all have to be business related. They don't have to all be Accounting Society or Beta Alpha Psi, although those are great resources for you to get engaged in. But we want you to find things you're passionate about. We want to see opportunities where you utilize your passion to lead others and inspire others and motivate others to build that leadership skill set on your resume. Involvement in some of those organizations like Beta Alpha Psi and the Accounting Society will give you great networking opportunities. Some of the best things that you can do as a student, particularly at schools, for those of you that do have access to Big Four recruiters, is build relationships with them. It goes a long way in terms of creating opportunities for yourself when you can build a strong relationship with recruiters or professionals that are willing to go that extra mile for your consideration. Strong academic performance is critical. Just like you can't get by just with a 4.0, you can't get by with just strong social skills and a weak GPA, particularly in accounting classes. We are looking at those, at your performance in those classes to make sure that you're meeting the expectations of what we need you to be able to do when you come out to a client. We look at great written and verbal communication skills. So that's why on many of our campuses, we're helping students with resume development and public speaking. Because as you progress in your career at Deloitte and other Big Four firms, you need to be technically competent, but you also need to have skills that you can connect with our clients and talk to CFOs and HR managers, but also be able to become a senior or a manager and be able to train and develop the people that are coming up underneath you. We look for strong client and customer service skills. We're in the business of serving our clients, so we need to make it a priority to make sure that we are providing them the maximum level of customer service that we can. So we try to assess that through our interviewing process. And then willingness to travel is always important. Again, we're in the business of serving our clients, and sometimes our clients are located all over the country. So we need people that are flexible to meeting those demands when they arise. Building your resume. The best thing that you can do with regards to building your resume is to take a look at the job description that you're primarily interested in. That job description will give you so much insight on how to frame your resume for that opportunity. It will tell you the key components of what they're looking for in terms of education, what skill sets they're looking for, what attributes they're looking for. And then you can start to customize your resume and say, okay, they're looking for this education. They're looking for people that have demonstrated these skill sets. So you start to look at your experiences and put your education down there, put some of the different opportunities that you've had in volunteer experiences or maybe clubs and organizations that have demonstrated leadership skills, if that's what they're looking for in the job description. So many times you'll start with an objective, indicating your interest and why you feel like you're qualified for that position. Moving forward to your education, then your relevant work history. And many of you, particularly our freshmen and sophomores on the call, might be saying, well, I don't really have any relevant work history. Maybe I worked at McDonald's as a crew leader or worked as a lifeguard. But there's so many elements of those jobs that you can utilize to be a fit for our opportunities, particularly the opportunities we have for you at that level. You have customer service skills. You have responsibilities for closing out, the cash box at the end of the day. There's so many things that you can pull out and put on your resume. And if you're having difficulty doing that, the career centers at all of your respective colleges, even those of you that are recently graduated, they'll help you put those together. You want to focus on writing descriptive phrases, using words like managed, served, led, performed, and the more quantitative data that you can put down. If you were in a sales job or if you were responsible for meeting different quotas and you can demonstrate your successes, that's always a great element that will enhance your resume. And make sure that you do it chronologically as you're going through your work history and then further onto your leadership skills. A couple tips: we do try to ask you to try to keep it to one page. In many cases, at career fairs or those national conferences, we're receiving hundreds of resumes. And it's a lot easier for us to use your resume as a snapshot, and then as you move forward in the process, we do have an application that you would complete. Be cognizant of your font. For those of you that watch, Legally Blonde lately, you don't have to use a pink resume and spray it with perfume to get our attention. But what you do need to do is take advantage of opportunities on campus to build your leadership skills to make you stand out. And then also, what's not listed on here is working on your elevator speech, figuring out how to sell yourself when you do get that opportunity to make that great first impression. Finally, make sure you spell check your resume. I've had many situations where I've met students that have come up to me and I said, oh, you're graduating in December 2013. And they say, oh, no, it's actually December 2014. And they printed out 60 copies of these resumes. Or maybe they made another error and they misspelled their major or their university. That puts you in a very awkward situation when you're trying to present yourself as someone who's focused on detail. So make sure you have somebody else take a look at it before you start to disseminate it. So a little bit about preparing for Big Four recruiting. In many cases, it starts even earlier than what it's showing on box one. It starts at networking and building relationships. So if you do have opportunities to attend national conferences like Alpha and NAVA, or to go to opportunities where your Big Four firms are on your campus, take advantage of those to start building relationships. But in many cases, it starts when you either apply online through your resume submission or at a career fair. Then you'll move to the next step, which is usually a first-round interview. And in most cases, we try to do those on campus. And our process is for you ideally to meet with two different Deloitte professionals. You might meet with a recruiter, or you might meet with a manager, a senior manager, and then a partner. So you might do 30 minutes with one, 30 minutes with another, and they will do a behavioral-based interview with you. For those of you that are looking at Deloitte Consulting, they will do kind of case study interviews with you. The third round is coming into the office generally. We'll have you come in, and in my location in Tampa, or Jen's in San Francisco, and you'll meet with a number of different professionals and senior managers and partners, and in many cases have an opportunity to connect with a lot of our staff and seniors, which are professionals that are in their first through fifth year. It's a great opportunity for you to sell yourself on why you feel like you're a great fit for the organization, but also going back to finding your fit, to figuring out, is this really a good place for me to launch my career? Do I feel comfortable with these individuals? Do I feel like I'm going to be supported and that this is going to be a great home for me? That's something you're trying to assess during that process, and then hopefully you get to the final step, which is receiving an offer and being in a position to make a decision. Behavioral-based interviews. Many of you, if you've gone through an on-campus interviewing process, you've probably had an opportunity to go through this. We believe that past performance is the best indicator of future performance. So our questions are really geared towards learning how you've handled different situations in the past. So you see some of the sample questions on there. Tell me about how you handled a situation when a team member did not carry their weight on a team. So some of the best things you can do is research behavioral-based questions and prepare potential answers. Practice. Go to your career centers and participate in mock interviews. You don't want your first interview to be with your dream company. You want to give yourself an opportunity to practice and challenge yourself a little bit. Most of our questions are geared towards assessing your leadership skills, your teamwork, your problem solving, and your initiative. So our questions are going to be geared in each of those categories to help us figure out, do you have those abilities? Those are things we need to see in our professionals. We'll also spend a little time going over your resume and just getting to know you and building some rapport. I know Casey's been doing this for a long time, and he's been actively involved in campus recruiting. So ask him to share a little bit about some stories that he has about being an interviewer on campus, and then he's going to talk to you a little bit about how to prepare for that process. So Casey?
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, it's everything you characterize is spot on. How you position yourself on paper is often a distinguishing characteristic. I'm scheduled to go back to my alma mater in a couple weeks, and we'll have a networking night. Undoubtedly, we'll have one of the longest lines in the room, and I'll have people that stand in line for 2 hours to try to engage me in dialogue for albeit a few minutes. At the end of the night, I walk away with a pile of resumes, and I'm trying to go back and filter through them and remember who distinguished themselves and for what reasons. And frankly, who do I want to go back and have a follow-up conversation with? Who among those people stood out to me? Who looks like they have those right characteristics and attributes in order to be successful in the firm? And so as Kevin said off the topic of behavioral interviewing techniques, what I try to do is get behind the resume. Now, the resume is a great tool to serve as a catalyst for the discussion, but I like to actually get to know the person, understand what their core values are, so that I can make a judgment as to whether they'll be a good fit here at Deloitte. My questions typically center around their experiences in trying to get them to open up and share the details about how those experiences have shaped them and prepared them for a successful career. What you see here on the slide, next slide, Kev, is something we refer to as STAR technique. The STAR technique is helpful to bring your candidacy to life through real situations where you were tasked with a challenge, you took an action, and you achieved a result. I think the example here is talking about a philanthropic effort where you're raising funds to go towards charity. Some of the student athletes out there might talk about being elected to a captaincy on their team and leading the turnaround of that athletic endeavor. Someone else might think about how they have mentored and helped other students in a particular topic through tutoring arrangements on campus and the like. The takeaway is that all of our experiences are unique and different, but what did you make of it? What did you get out of it? And how has that helped develop you as a leader? So my advice is, don't be afraid to open up. Early on in the process, try to establish a rapport through small talk. Get to know the person that you're interviewing with. Don't forget that we were always on that side of the table as well. It wasn't too long ago for some of us. And we're all just people. So don't be afraid to open up. Be confident in your experiences. You wouldn't have drawn somebody's attention if you didn't have experience that was relevant and of interest to us. And be candid. Don't be afraid to open up and tell the truth. Be honest about your experiences. And be humble. We're not all perfect. We all have shortcomings. Those translate into developmental objectives and goals. So be candid with your interviewer, and it'll most likely be well received. Maybe some final thoughts in terms of tips for success on the next slide. Kevin was talking about building your resume. You guys have an opportunity today to think about the experiences that you want to have and leverage in the process. So take a moment and conduct a gap assessment and be proactive in seeking out opportunities on your campus or in your community and write the story that you want to tell through your resume. Know your story. Think about how you want to convey yourself and what 3 or 4 things you want to impress upon the interviewer. Use your real-life examples to make a lasting impression and reinforce the messages throughout your interview. Be diligent. Do your research on the prospective employer. Come prepared to engage in a meaningful dialogue constructed around your questions. Remember, you're making a career investment decision here too. And it probably goes without saying, but this is often a deciding factor in a very competitive pool, but dress to impress. I've often seen folks that didn't observe good grooming habits on the day of the interview. They may have exhibited poor body language by being sluggish in the chair. And when you're looking at a talented pool of people, these are the things that often differentiate the talent, and they could be deciding factors down the road as to who gets invited back. And my last jewel of wisdom here is take the elevator. What does that mean? Well, I once arrived at an interview after taking a set of stairs. The problem was the interview room was right at the top of the stairs, and I had no opportunity to catch my breath. Walked right into the room, couldn't even introduce myself and who I was. The takeaway here is know where you're going. You want to remove as much uncertainty from the day as you can, so you can focus on being your best and projecting your best candidacy. Kevin, I'll give it back to you for the wrap-up here.
Thanks, Casey. There are some great ways to stay connected with Deloitte. We have some really neat mediums here I want to cover with you on this slide. If you have your iPhones out, you can go ahead and search for the Deloitte B app. And this is a great tool to learn more about the different functions within Deloitte, to learn about audit, tax, financial advisory services, consulting, to hear stories about people that work in those areas and what do they do. There's also a tool on there that will help you build your personal brand statement. So those of you that are working on your elevator speech or your initial introduction, that's a great tool to help you develop that. We have a Facebook group at Deloitte, facebook.com/Deloitte University, and that's a great tool for staying up to date on things that are going on at Deloitte, whether it's national accolades or things that are going on at Deloitte University. It's a great way for you to learn more about the organization in a very passive way, just as you're kind of checking your news feed every day. You can learn a little bit more about things that are going on at Deloitte. And then finally, our Twitter is a very unique tool. It's called Life at Deloitte. And what we do every week is select one of our professionals, and we follow them as they go through the course of their week. So for those of you wondering, what is it really like to be a Deloitte professional? What's a day or a week in the life of a Deloitte professional? That's a great way for you to follow that and learn more about it. We have representation every week from different functions and different areas. So again, a great tool for you to utilize. We do want to provide everyone with an opportunity to participate in a Q&A. So Jen, I think I'm going to turn things over to you to get that element started.
Wonderful. We have received so many great questions coming through the question manager, so continue to shoot them off, and I think a number of them have been answered throughout the course of the presentation. But I have a couple here, Casey and Kevin, that I think you guys will be able to address, and we've got probably about 6 or 7 minutes here for some live questions. One of the questions that's coming up that we'll address in just a moment, too, is how do you apply to learn more about careers at Deloitte? So stick around for that. We'll show you more around how to do that. But to get started, one of the questions that came in here was related to work experience. And we have a number of folks on the phone that we saw that are either master's students, have recently graduated, starting second careers. So Casey, could you talk to us a little bit about the level of expectations around work experience? And is that something that we require for our new hires?
Thanks, Jen. It's certainly not something that's required for new hires, but I think it's always facts and circumstances specific. In a competitive market, the more experience you have, you may be better positioned to differentiate yourself. My particular story, I didn't get an opportunity coming off campus because I was at a very small school at the time. And frankly, I was able to leverage career experience into an opportunity because there was an intersection with growth in the practice. But frankly speaking, when we look at entry-level positions, work experience is not a requirement. Look at your internship experiences or even summer jobs, as the case may be, and how you've exhibited both progressive responsibility and leadership potential, and try to tell that story. You could have been waiting tables. You could have progressed from a lifeguard up to the supervisor or the lifeguard. It doesn't particularly matter what it is. It matters what you did with it.
Awesome. And one follow-up question to that, Casey. A couple of folks have asked about CPA. Is that something that we require as people are interviewing, or does that come a little bit later? Maybe you can speak a little to that.
Sure. Generally speaking, it comes later in life, if you would. And it's actually a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up. For the audit practice, we do require that the candidate has 150 credit hours of education or is close to achieving 150 credit hours of education with some follow-on courses they may arrange over the course of a summer or perhaps even night division courses that they may wrap up to get to the 150. Why is the 150 credit hour important? Well, you need to have 150 credit hours in order to sit for the CPA exam. Our general expectation is that you would sit for the exam, pursue your certification diligently, and obtain it by the time that you are getting promoted to manager, which on a normal career progression is about 5 years into the audit practice. The other service lines, consulting and FAS, don't typically require that you be a CPA, but instead our consultants often go on to business school and obtain MBAs, and our FAS professionals may have other professional certifications, particularly CFEs or CFAs. And then within our tax practice, that's not a requirement, although folks often pursue further education in the form of Masters of Science in Taxation or LLMs, as the case may be. And those are often pursued later on in the course of their career, but not expected as an entry-level new hire.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Very helpful. Kevin, here's one for you, if you could address. Someone asked about at a previous employer, there was an environment that really encouraged people to ask questions and seek help if they needed it. Would you say that Deloitte's culture is similar in that way?
Well, I think the great thing about Deloitte is that in many cases, you're starting as an intern or a new hire, and the way our structure is set up, almost everyone that is above you in structure has been in your shoes. So they understand, even if they were a 4.0 student, and you show up that first day and you open your laptop and you're trying to figure out, what do you do? How do you make an impact here? And that goes on every level of your career. As you move up to a senior, you move up to a manager and senior manager, you're always going to have questions. And working at Deloitte, it's our job to serve our clients and to make the people around us better. So we're constantly seeking out opportunities to develop those around us and to cultivate an environment where it is okay for you to ask questions. Now, you want to put yourself in a position where you're not asking the same question 6 or 7 times. You want to take notes as you're asking those questions to make sure that you're getting the information you need and then acting accordingly. But it is an environment that's critically dependent upon you asking questions to make sure that you're getting help to do it right the first time. So
I completely agree with that. I've got a saying that I use with my teams, and it goes like this: the only bad decision you made is one that you made by yourself. We are a very consultative culture. We embrace consensus, and we ask that you don't go it alone. So we encourage that.
I like that. I like that a lot. There's a really insightful question that came through here, Casey, that I'd love your perspectives on, which is related to how people and how performance is evaluated once you've joined Deloitte. What does success look like?
Sure. So I can certainly speak from the audit perspective. We have a very well-established set of competencies, professional competencies, that yield to a set of performance expectations. For each engagement assignment where a professional works for 80 hours or more, they receive direct written feedback from an evaluator. There's a primary evaluator as well as an overriding evaluator. So it's multiple people that are providing that consensus feedback on your performance. And generally speaking, it's constructive criticism. It's more or less geared towards identifying where you had a potential gap in your technical competency or your project management skills, as the case may be, and how you can improve upon that. And then in a similar vein, we identify where your strengths were. What were you very good at, and how can we leverage that in order to give you progressive responsibility and help to support your continued success. These are done, as I've mentioned, on a project-specific basis, and semi-annually they're aggregated. The feedback is aggregated, and you would meet with your counselor. You have generally an independent counselor that helps you filter through that feedback, helps you look at the structured progression of a typical career track within your function, and help you put together a plan as to how to continue to progress your career and move to the next level and continue to grow and develop as a professional.
Excellent, thank you. A couple of questions. The same one has come in here around how is the culture of Deloitte different from other Big Four firms, or what makes us unique? Maybe Kevin, you could share a little bit of your perspective related to that.
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer in that I always encourage students to go out and meet all the firms. It's kind of like dating. You want to go out and meet people and find the right fit, right? So you go out to the career fairs, you go to as many events as possible, and you can still even find out about the culture of Deloitte by watching our videos on YouTube or going, reading the Twitter feed. You can learn a little bit about what our people are like here. But, I tell students one thing that really stands out to me about Deloitte and our culture is, again, our commitment to learning and development. It's one thing to say we care about training and development, and we care about investing in you, but for our leadership to put their money where their mouth is and build Deloitte University, which is somewhere where all of our professionals, whether it's students going for leadership conferences, intern conferences, new hire training, professional development, go out to DU and really get motivated, inspired, and learn and acquire new skills. And I think that's one of the things that really stands out about the culture of Deloitte. And I know, Casey, we already addressed it in the previous question. Just being collaborative and working together and teaming is critically important, and that's why we assess that in the interviewing process, because we have to have people that can work in the context of a team. So that's a critical element of Deloitte. And we like to have fun. There's so many things. We have a beach party in Tampa every year. All of our offices do a lot of fun things to get out, and it's not all about work. It's about building relationships, and that's why people stay. And people say they stay at Deloitte because they love the people they work with. And I think that's critically important to our culture.
Casey, anything you'd add to the question? I know people feel very passionate about the culture of Deloitte. Anything you'd add to what Kevin shared?
Yeah, I would very much agree with that. I mean, I have my own lens of experiences, but I competed in 2 different collegiate sports, and athleticism and teamwork was very much a hallmark of who I was. And in my first career experience, I did have that ivory tower, and I was a contributor, but I didn't. There was a pecking order and a rank, and those that sat on top of it didn't embrace me for who I was and the value I contributed. It's the exact converse here at Deloitte. As I said earlier on in the presentation, there is no pecking order. There's simply people with more or less experience. And the teamwork aspect of it is, I have people over the course of my career who I've kind of stood shoulder to shoulder, toe to toe, and kind of went to work with. They knew what I was capable of doing, and they gave me responsibility, and it was meaningful both to the overall project, and it was meaningful to my development, and I was rewarded for it. It was appreciated. I felt like I was a part of a team, and then over the course of time, you feel like you become part of a family. So I have a very, very strong affinity for the people culture, the people-centric culture. It's what we do. We're in the people business, and it's what's endeared me to the firm and kept me here for so long. And it's part of what I don't think I could find, frankly, out in industry or with another firm.
Yeah, I think those are great points, and Kevin, as you said, I would encourage all of you guys to talk to other professionals from Deloitte and the other organizations to learn more. And I think one of the things I found in my career at Deloitte is that no one has that exact same career path, and so talk to professionals and see how the organizations that they work for have supported them in their development. Jeff, we have about 1 million more questions, but I know we're running out of time, so I'm happy to stay on and answer a few more. post-session here, but I think we were going to turn it over to you to talk just a little bit about how to apply for opportunities at Deloitte.
Yeah, that'd be great. And Kevin, if you want to make me the presenter, I can show that. So what we'd like to do for everybody who participated today is if you had a question that did not get answered, and there's quite a few of them, the team from Deloitte will stick around, as will I, and we will answer your questions not over the phone, but over the panel where you ask your questions. So if you leave that online, we'll be able to answer your questions there. So for many of you, based off the schools we looked at, Deloitte already visits your school, which is outstanding. If you're interested in applying to Deloitte, and I imagine that you probably are after hearing this great information, the best bet is to apply through your on-campus career center for on-campus interviews when they visit your school. Jen, I've got that right? You prefer them, if they're at your school, to go ahead and apply at their college campus. Do I have that correct?
Right. Thanks, Steph.
Okay, fantastic. But we had a lot of questions. How do you apply if Deloitte does not visit your campus? So we've set something up on CollegeFrog, and I'll show you. You can see a link here, and just so everybody sees it, you can go to collegefrog.com/ and a little $ Deloitte. I'll show you what that looks like. If you want to go, I can actually get to that site right here. So what you're looking at is Deloitte's profile on CollegeFrog, and you can learn some more information about the company here. And then there are two jobs, one for audit, one for tax here on the left-hand side. So you can click on those postings and actually click apply. That will take you into Deloitte's candidate system where you can fill out an application. If you'd like to, this will take you off of CollegeFrog, and if you want to stick around on CollegeFrog and build a profile after you apply to Deloitte, you're welcome to. There will be a window open for that as well. Of course, if you have any questions about that, you can just let us know.
And Jeff, I'll just add one thing to that, because I saw a couple questions come in from people that are interested in consulting or FAS, other parts of our business. We have all of our open positions posted on our career site that you can get to from Deloitte.com. So if you're not necessarily interested in audit or tax, we do have opportunities in the other functions as well.
I'm glad you said that. I did see a handful of consulting-related questions too, so thanks for bringing that up. So housekeeping. Jen and their team will stay on, and if you had a question that wasn't answered, stick around. We'll do our best to get to all those questions. Secondly, we're going to send you a follow-up email after the session. It's going to have a link to the B app, to the Twitter page, to the Facebook page, and all the different resources where you can keep in touch with Deloitte. And I highly encourage you to like Deloitte on Facebook, to follow their Twitter page, and subscribe to that app. It's an incredible resource, and it'll help you continue to learn this education about starting your career with a Big Four and starting your career with Deloitte. Kevin and Casey and Jen, I think this has been an outstanding session. I can tell by the absolutely overwhelming number of questions that you have definitely struck a positive nerve with all of the students here on this webinar. And I just thank you for taking the time to present to this audience. We really appreciate that and your sponsorship in National Meet the Firms Week. And to all the students out there and recent grads, we appreciate you being a part of this as well. I hope it's been informative. I know that it has been. If you have any questions about National Meet the Firms Week or this presentation, please do email me at jeff@collegefrog.com. We will send out a recording of the presentation because I've had a lot of questions about that as well. And if you haven't already, there's a lot of other webinars the rest of the week about life in mid-sized firms, life in starting your career in-house, and some recruiter tips. On Friday, you can just go to our website, meetthefirmsweek.com, click the webinar link, and you'll see all those webinars. So if you have a question that hasn't been answered yet, stick around. We're going to end the phone call now, but we'll be online as well. And I just want to thank everybody for having an outstanding experience today, and hope that everybody has a fantastic rest of the week. Deloitte team, thank you again. We'll talk to you soon. Bye now.
You all. Take care.